Hey there guys, Remeax here. I'm going to show you the best way to level up currently. Once you made it to World Tier 4, or honestly at any point in the game, but it's best when you made it to World Tier 4. I'm talking about resetting dungeons without having to log out and log back in. This method drastically reduces the time it takes to get back into the dungeon and to kill monsters to farm XP. There are two different methods, one for normal dungeons and the other method for nightmare dungeons. I'll go ahead and explain how to do it, then go over some tips to make sure you farm the most XP you can. So let's get into it. Resetting normal dungeons. What you want to do is start up any nightmare dungeon you don't care about. I already have one up and a portal to the dungeon already, so I'll use that to make this video shorter. So once you activate your sigil, you'll then want to go into the nightmare dungeon and kill a few monsters. Then go to any normal dungeon you want to farm. Complete it or however way you want to farm it, and it will reset every time you leave the dungeon. It's that simple. Resetting nightmare dungeons. Start up any nightmare dungeon you want to farm, go into it, then go to any normal dungeon and only complete the first objective in that normal dungeon. Then go back to your nightmare dungeon, and now every time you leave that nightmare dungeon, it will reset. Side tip for nightmare dungeons: don't complete the entire nightmare dungeon, otherwise it will clear it and reset it back to a normal dungeon. So most people complete the first objective of the nightmare dungeon, then reset it so that way it stays as a nightmare dungeon. Both of these methods also work with any and all dungeons. If you happen to DC or log out of the game, you will have to redo the methods. The only cons to these methods are loot on the floor will be lost whenever you leave since it resets the dungeon, which isn't a big deal since you'll have what you really want in your inventory already, and any legendaries up to 10 will automatically be stored to your stash even if you leave them on the ground. The other con, which applies only to the nightmare dungeon reset, you don't get any glyph experience since we're not completing the dungeon. But then again, this is just to farm experience to level up our character, not our glyphs. Now for some additional tips to get as much experience as you can while doing these methods. First and foremost, obviously, pop an elixir. They all give an additional 5% experience and an additional bonus effect. Next tip, farm blind burrows. It's currently the best dungeon to farm for experience. This dungeon has the monsters called arachnid horde monsters, which are the fat zombie dudes with the spider mind controlling them. Then on death, explodes into a bunch of tiny little spiders and one big spider. Every single one of those kills gives experience. The first objective of Blind Burrows is to kill 3 arachnid horde elites, spread out through the dungeon, which elites give about 8% bonus experience compared to their normal counterparts. The dungeon also has a decent amount of elite packs as well spread out through the entire dungeon. Third and probably the most important tip, farming nightmare dungeons for experience is the best way to level up right now. It's the only way to boost the monster's level, which in return give more experience if they're higher level than you. In the open world, monsters are your level. In nightmare dungeons, they are set to a certain level based on the tier of the sigil, but the sigils don't say what level the monsters will be directly. It goes based off the tier of the sigil. So I'm level 90, I want the monsters to be 3 levels higher, so level 93 monsters in this case. That way, it gives an additional 25% experience. In order to know what level the monsters are in the nightmare dungeon, since there's no indicator, find the tier level of the dungeon. Then add 54. Don't ask me why 54, it just is. So going back to the example, I'm level 90, I want monsters to be level 93. So 93 minus 54 equals 39, or sigil tier 39 plus 54 equals 93. Tier 39 Nightmare Dungeon will be the most efficient way to farm experience for a level 90. Now, if you're planning on farming a few levels in the Nightmare Dungeon and can kill monsters more than 4 levels higher with ease, go ahead and up the tier a bit, but not too much where it takes too long to kill the monsters, because you don't get any more additional experience when monsters are 4 levels or higher above you. It'll be capped at 25% additional experience at monsters 3 levels higher. Either way, Nightmare Dungeon or Normal Dungeon, Blind Burrows is the way to go currently. Since it's kind of hard to target farm specific Nightmare Dungeons with the correct tier you want, I tend to keep them whenever I know I'll have time to farm it for hours. A bonus tip for Blind Burrows, I personally do the event Last Stand. So if you see the event Last Stand, I recommend doing it. It's literally just an endless spawn of spiders running to you. It'll also spawn about 3 to 5 elites during the event. So I literally just stand still on the edge and spam my pulverize skill and kill everything. It's up to you though, but I tend to get a bit of experience from it. The last and final tip, playing in a party. In the overworld or the open world, being near a player gives an additional 5% experience bonus. Being in a party gives an additional 10%. So if you plan to farm Blind Burrows in a party, it's best you all split up, each taking up their own lane. You all get the same experience regardless of distance or damage contribution. and once you reach the end of the lanes, reset the dungeon and repeat. Farming other dungeons in a party is also good as well. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to bring more guides for Diablo 4 soon. If you thought this video was helpful, please leave a like and subscribe if you aren't already. It helps my channel grow and get more awareness. Don't forget to check out my other socials, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.